All right, so it's almost Thanksgiving. It's almost that time already. And so Pastor David wanted to start a new series on gratitude. Makes sense, right? It means it's a season of giving. It's a season of being grateful for what you've been given. And so last Wednesday, if you were here, he made this challenge. Do you guys, anybody remember what that challenge was? Like, I don't know why I listened, but I listened and I heard it and it hit me. The challenge is to pick the thing that you are the most ungrateful for and spend the next series, this month, as a church, intentionally being grateful for the thing that you are ungrateful for. And that is hard. Like, that is really, really, really hard. And so we're getting ready to go back home here. I got 2 weeks. 2 weeks, and then me and my family, we're going to go to St. Louis. We're going to take the 12-hour, Daddy, are we there yet, trek all the way to Missouri to spend Thanksgiving with the family. Yep, Thanksgiving with the family. I am not that excited. Don't get me wrong, I absolutely adore my family. I come from an amazing family. If you hear me talk about my family, I love my family to pieces. And I actually kind of like the drive. Like, that drive is a little bit of a mini adventure, and it's kind of fun. We make a thing of it. We stop in a hotel, and the kids love it. It's fun, and so it's good. And I need the time off, because I've been going. So all good things. But can I be really real with you guys? Like, something Pastor David told me that I want to share with you, especially if you're parents of a teenager, okay? Pastor David told me when I first took over youth ministry that the kids see right through you. I don't know if it's the stage of life they're in or what it is, but their minds are looking for the holes in what it is that you're saying. And so he said, you have to be real with them. You have to be real with them. So this is a youth message, and this is going to be very, very real, okay? My family's not okay. My family is not okay. We haven't been okay in a long time. I have 4 siblings. I'm the oldest of 4 siblings. I have a little brother and 2 little sisters. And we were close. Like, we grew up, there wasn't a whole lot of neighbors, so we were each other's best friends. Like, we went on adventures together. We went camping trips and played video games together. We did each other's chores. We took care of each other. And when I went through all the crazy things I went through in my 20s, they were there. They were right there next to me. We went through some dark times together, some difficult things. Collectively, we were close. And then I joined the Army. Then I came down here. And right about that same time, we just split. And we haven't lived more than 150 miles from each other since. So it's been almost a decade now where we haven't been close to one another. And the distance and the lack of communication has led to a whole lot of fear and a whole lot of doubt and a whole lot of insecurities in all of our relationships, okay? I say all these things because I don't know how to fix them, for one. And for two, I'm getting ready to go home to Thanksgiving, and none of my siblings are going to be celebrating it with me. And so that is the thing for me. That's the thing that I'm most ungrateful for. I'm not grateful for it. It's kind of a mess, right? And it gets worse because about a year ago, there was a phone conversation that was not a conversation, it was more of an argument. And some things were said, and I became absolutely convinced in my heart, not my head, but in my heart, that my sibling no longer loves me. They don't love me no more. They have an idea of who I should be, and they love that, but they don't love me. I can point to that moment. I don't know if you guys, any of you in here can relate, but I can point to the moment when my heart turned to stone. That's what happened. My heart turned to stone. I gave up hope in the relationship. I gave up hope in it ever getting better. And now I can't think about it. I have to intentionally separate that part of my life and not think about it. Because the minute I start thinking about it, I start this nasty conversation in my head that spirals all the way out of control, and it makes me nasty to the people around me. Okay? So I'm totally giving it to Jesus a year ago because it was starting to affect how I treated everybody here. It's all yours, God. You know I can't handle this, and here I am, and we're going to Thanksgiving, and nothing. Most ungrateful for. And I'm focusing in on relationships here because that's the thing I'm ungrateful for. But it can be anything, right? You can be ungrateful for just about anything. Let's say that you look and you see that your grades are not what you want them to be. Student message, guys, but I think you can relate. So your grades, they're not what you want them to be. Okay? And so you do some thinking about it and you say, well, how can I get them better? Or what's going on here? And what's wrong here? Right? And then you show up in that class where that one person, that girl or that boy says, man, that test was so easy. And you're looking at it and you got a C minus. And you're like, I didn't even have to study. Mm-hmm. You got anybody been in there? Been there? And now you're ungrateful for this, right? You're ungrateful for your brain. You're ungrateful for what God gave you. And it starts to spiral, like me and my conversations with my sibling, it spirals out of control. So does your thoughts around this thing. So why should I even try? I know I'm not going to get a good enough grade. I know that they're just going to yell at me because I didn't do as well. Why should I even try? And so you don't, because you don't think you can. And the next thing you know, you have all kinds of evidence in your life pointing to how dumb you are, right? That's what happens. It's this funny kind of self-prophecy, self-fulfilling prophecy sort of thing. It's the things that we focus on. The things that we focus on are what we make. The thing that's in your heart is what you make. In fact, there's a Proverbs that explains this crazy phenomenon. It is a phenomenon. If you really try and think about it, it's weird. But there's a proverb that explains it. In Proverbs 16:9, it says, the heart of man plans his way, but the Lord establishes his steps. The heart of man plans his way, but the Lord establishes his steps. So everything that you think about and dwell on and contemplate, the things that you find ungrateful hold you down. They hold you down. That's the bottom line for today. Today's bottom line is ingratitude is a weight that holds you down. If you don't get anything else out of the message, that's the bottom line. Ingratitude is a weight that holds you down. Now let's take a little bit of a look at what ingratitude is. Okay? Ingratitude is never, ever, your ungratefulness is always based on an assumption. You hear me? It's an assumption. It's not based on facts. It's based on an assumption, based on your perspective. Based on your perspective. So, in the case of my sibling, right? So my assumption is they don't love me anymore. But if you were to go meet them and talk to them, I am positive that my sibling would tell you just how much they love me. They would. They would tell me, and they would have all kinds of reasons, and you would be absolutely convinced. You would also probably, if you were to investigate the whole matter, you would realize that they made some assumptions of their own, right? That gave them this perspective. And you'll see how two people who absolutely adore, admire, and love one another are now completely apart from one another because of a bunch of assumptions that both of them are making. Does that make sense? The same is true about let's be real, okay? I'm gonna be real. So what if you're not the sharpest crayon in the box, right? So what if you're not the sharpest crayon in the box? What if you are? What if that's true? I love you, Allie. But did you guys ever think about this? A master artist, sometimes it's appropriate for a master artist to make a crayon dull in order to get the look that he wants. Does that make sense? Sometimes the sharp crayon can't do what the dull crayon can do. And I know this because I'm a nerd. I am the socially awkward nerd. I've gotten better. I'm 30-something years old. I've done a lot of thinking on it, and I got a little bit better. But man, as a kid, I was the kid that was like, why was this test so hard for everybody else? Why aren't they proud? Because it was easy for me. It was weird. And I overthink everything, right? So I overthink it. And so now I'm isolated, and they think I'm terrible because I'm smart, and I can't do anything about being smart. And I'm a mess. I was a mess. It was very messy. I don't have time to tell you how messy it was. But I can tell you, if you've ever watched Big Bang Theory, my wife is giggling because she always giggles in that. When we watch that show, she pokes me and giggles because it's me. So sometimes it's an assumption, right? Like, the assumption is that it's bad to be a dull crayon. The assumption is that your mind isn't good enough. That's an assumption. That's an assumption. God made your mind. Your mind does things, like I've watched. There are people out there that couldn't, like, I can ace some chemistry tests, I can do all kinds of cool stuff, but there are people out there that can just walk up to other people and just talk to them like it's nothing. They do what I have to analyze over and over and over again. They do it without even thinking. Right? God made you special. He made you unique. He gave you all kinds of things that are good, and we make assumptions about what those things are. And after we make those assumptions, now we're ungrateful. We're ungrateful because we don't meet the assumption, the standard, we don't meet what we think it should be. So ingratitude is a heart assumption based on perspective. So with that in mind, I want to take a look at the Macedonians. Macedonia so there's Greece, right? There's the peninsula of Greece. They are the Upper East. You can see I did that right. I kept doing it like this earlier. So they're the Upper East. They are the Upper East portion of Greece, and it's very poor. It's a very poor area, very terrible. And so in about 55 AD, about 20, less than 20-ish years after Christ was crucified, Paul is up in Macedonia, and he's writing a letter to the people of Corinth to let them know that he's coming. Okay, and he tells this story about what's happening in Macedonia. No doubt about it, history proves it, amazing things happen through Paul's ministry. The fact that we have a church here today means that some amazing things happened in Paul's ministry. Uncanny, radical things. And so this story is ridiculous. Like, that's the best way I can describe it. So here's what happens. We want you to know, brothers, about the grace of God that has been given among the churches of Macedonia. For in a severe test of affliction, their abundance of joy and their extreme poverty have overflowed in a wealth of generosity on their part. For they gave according to their means, as I can testify, and beyond their means, of their own accord, begging us earnestly for the favor of taking part in the relief of the saints. And this, not as we expected, but they gave themselves first to the Lord and then to the will of God to us. So let's think about this, okay? Let's think about this. A poor area, very poor area. They are already afflicted. And now they want to give to Jerusalem. This is what they're giving for, okay? They've been supporting Paul. They've been taking care of him while he was there. But they're also now giving more than what they have, more than able, in order to support Jerusalem, which is afflicted and poor. Like, wait a minute. Like, I could see this, okay? Like, in my imagination, Paul shows up, lots of amazing things happen, people get healed, and guess what? Paul comes with like a charity program. Like, how do I get signed up? Like, we are poor. Put us on that list of people you help out. Go to the rich churches and like, we'll do this. What makes me any different than Jerusalem? Right? That's where my mind goes. Does anybody else's mind go there? Like, come on. Like, why are these guys all of a sudden trying to help out an afflicted people when they themselves are afflicted? It doesn't make any sense. It's hard to understand. And the reason it's hard to understand is because they have a radically different assumption about their circumstances based on a radically different perspective. They have a completely different perspective. So these people are poor and afflicted, okay? Before Paul shows up, they are like light forsaken. They are poverty. If you've done any kind of mission work or gone out on mission, you know there's poverty and there's poverty mentality, okay? Poverty mentality has to do with not thinking anything is worth anything. I'm not worth anything. Nothing I do is worth anything. That's a poverty mentality, and it leads to poverty, right? So it's more than that. So here they are in this poverty mentality, thinking they are completely abandoned by whatever gods that are out there, and Paul shows up. And they went from being completely convinced that they are light forsaken to believing they are absolutely adored and loved by the creator of the universe. You see the difference there? It's a huge difference. And it's like, no doubt about it, I absolutely believe that Paul was healing people in that area, and I think that he was, but more importantly, I think he was radically changing people's hearts. Okay? So everybody, Christians in here, you guys know that there's that moment when you became a Christian and now you radically changed, and it was like, wow, this is amazing, and God loves me, and okay? Imagine hundreds of people doing that in 2 weeks. That's what happened, okay? So all of a sudden, Mrs. Potter, who lives on the corner, who yells at everybody all the time, is doing everything she can to help other people, right? All of a sudden, the village jerk that runs around drinking all the time, who everybody can annoy, and he's loud and he's obnoxious, is now telling people about how amazing Jesus is. You see this? They've changed. Their perspective on everything has changed. They're grateful. That's the difference. These people are grateful. They're incredibly, incredibly grateful. And grateful people have the power to change their circumstances. Grateful people have the power to redefine their circumstances and thereby change their circumstances. This is the truth. So, let me think about my sibling, right? I have been challenged by Pastor David. We as a church have been challenged by Pastor David to be grateful for the thing that we are ungrateful for, right? So I go back to my sibling. I'm hurt, not grateful for siblings that I don't think they love me. Wait a minute. But I am loved. Right? But I am loved. I'm adored. Jesus died for me. He went to the nth degree to show me how much he loves me. He went to the nth degree to take care of whatever it is that could come between us. He weeded, he mucked around in the mess that is my life to get to me. He loves me. He loves me. Okay. The God of the universe who knows all my nasty, he knows all my nasty, loves me. Wait a minute. That gives me the ability to look at my nasty. Now I can look at it, and I can be really, 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 really real with myself. I'm a mess. I've said some things. I've done some things. I'm not a real good brother. Can I be honest? I'm not a real good brother. Not. But Jesus loves me. I'm loved. He's making it better. And he has been making it better for a long time. He's going to keep on making it better. He can make this relationship that we have between me and my siblings better. I don't have to worry about it. All of a sudden, the fear, the doubt, all the insecurities, they fall off. The ingratitude can go away. And I can stop and be like, you remember that one time we were down by the creek? We built that raft. Remember that one time when I got you to do my dishes for me and you told me you loved me? You remember that time? You remember that time? And I start to remember all of the good things. And I see that I'm not perfect. They're not perfect. And that's okay. That's okay. I can love them and cherish them because think about it. How much of a difference have they made on my life? If you have siblings, you know. I think God, you get siblings so that you can practice adult problems before you become an adult. And so, they've seen the very worst of me and probably the very best. Right? And I thank them for that. Thank God for them. I'm so glad that I have them. Right? Ingratitude is a weight that holds you down. All of a sudden, I can get rid of that. And ingratitude, bye. I'm going to love you. I'm going to take care of you. I'm going to care about you. no matter what. And so we have to do it. Pastor David has challenged us to be grateful for what we're ungrateful for. And it is not easy, right? It's not easy. It has to be rooted in grace. Because you just can't show up to school and say, I'm so grateful for the brain you gave me, God, and then not meet your own expectations, right? I'm so thankful for the brain you gave me, God, and then you go to take a test and you don't get a good grade, and right? It has to be rooted in grace. It has to be rooted in grace, and so you have to give it up. Number one, you have to give up your right. You have to give up your right. The reason you have an assumption in the first place is because you believe you have a right to define it. You believe you have a right. We didn't choose to be born. We didn't choose for God to create the universe. We didn't choose any of these things. The truth is everything that we have is a gift. It is a grace that has been given to us. It is grace, unmerited favor from God. If I can get to a place where I don't feel like I have a right to say what this is, I can stop looking at it for what I think it is. This is number two. Give up your assumptions. Give up your assumptions. Your assumptions are wrong. Stop thinking that you know what it's supposed to be, because you don't. The truth is, none of us do. None of us have a clear idea of what we're supposed to be, how we're supposed to act, what we're supposed to do. None of us do. We're working it out as we go along, right? Hand in hand with our Creator, who does know. He does know. So give up your assumptions and start getting His thoughts. What is His truth on it? What is His truth on it? Because you'll probably be surprised and find out that all along He has been leading you towards something totally different than what you think you should have had. And 100% better. Number three. Give up your ingratitude. Give up your ingratitude. Let it fall off. If you don't have a right and you can't define it, give it up and let Him. And when He does, you'll find out that you have everything in this world to be grateful for. Everything in this world to be grateful for. You think about those Macedonians and what they did. We don't know how big of an offering they gave to the church at Jerusalem. That wasn't the point. The point was, do you see these radically changed people? Do you see what the gospel has the power to do? Like what it can do? These grateful people, they went from nothing to everything in a couple weeks. Could we do the same? Could we stop thinking that we're all that and we deserve all of this? Instead, stop and be like, what do you have for me, God? Because if we really look at what He has for us, it's pretty amazing. He calls us to be heirs. That's an inheritance in His kingdom. His kingdom is infinite. Like, that's a big, big, big idea. And it's the truth. All we have to do is give up our rights. We can't define it. You should be grateful. And if we can be, we can get out of the nasty, vicious cycles, and we can start loving the people around us the way we want to. We can start loving ourselves the way we want to. We can grow. Father God, I lift You up and I thank You for today. I pray that You would help us to grab onto this idea, this challenge from our pastor. Grab onto this idea of choosing that thing that we are the most ungrateful for and choosing to be grateful for it. God, help us to remember who we are, where we are. Help us to see ourselves clearly. Help us to be grateful. And help us to thank You for all that You've done. Lord, I lift You up and I thank You. I thank You for loving me even though I lose hope. Loving me even though sometimes I try and give up on myself. And You keep pushing me. And You keep training me. And You keep loving me. And I know, just based on everything I've seen this morning, that You are doing the same thing in so many people's lives in this church. And I lift You up for it. And I praise You for it. And I am incredibly grateful. You're a good God, and I love you. I pray that you would go with us, walk with us this week, and help us to see how we can follow this, to be grateful in all. Pray all these things in Jesus' name.